In this video, we'll learn how to create a color column in Loocey and go over the settings and options of color columns. There are two ways to create a column in Loocey. We can either open the context menu of an existing column and click on Add Column to Right, then choose Color from the drop-down. Or we can click on the plus sign at the end of the table, select More Options, and then choose Color from the Column Type drop-down. We can enter the display name and click on Add if we want to use the default options. Once added, we can start selecting colors directly in the table, and the system will save them automatically. Let's pick a few different colors for our rows. There are a few different ways you can select a color in this column. First, you can choose from the color palette. Just hover over any shade to preview how it looks, and click to apply it right away. Then, below the palette, you'll see two rows of preset color swatches, provided as default suggestions to help you get started quickly. There's also a full rainbow gradient you can use to explore even more color options. And finally, you'll notice the eyedropper tool, which lets you select any color from anywhere on your screen. Next, let's refresh the page to confirm the values are saved correctly. We can also open the right panel by clicking on the item name and update the color fields from there. The difference is that from the right panel, we need to click on Save to apply all field changes at once, instead of updating them one by one in the table view. Note, the Save button will be disabled by default until you make changes. Let's change our color selection from the right panel and click Save. Next, let's look at some of the other options while creating color columns. Let's add another column and explore the additional options. You can set a default value for a color column so that it's used for all new rows created in this list. For example, if you want every new row to start with a specific color, like red, you can set that color as the default value. This way, each time you create a new row, the color column will automatically show that default color unless you change it manually. Next, the required option, just like the name implies, makes a column a required field when creating or updating records. By default, the name column is required. If we want to mark the color column as required, we'll also need to set a default value. This ensures the column always has a valid entry when new records are created. If we mark the color column as required, the Add Item input box will change into a button link. Then, when we click on either the Add Item link or the new button at the top, the system will open a dialog showing all required column inputs. Let's add another record and enter the values for the required columns in the dialog, then click on Create. The record will be added along with the values for all the required columns. This design of keeping track of required columns helps keep our table consistent and prevents invalid data entries. The isNull flag is a somewhat technical term, which simply means that if no default value is entered, this column will allow nulls instead of a value. Again, this is a database term, and it's okay if you leave it the default. Note that when we switch off the isNull option, the default value field will become required, as now the column requires a default value. This is because if you already have data in your list and if you turn off the null option, this column will need to be populated with another value, otherwise, we would get an error in the database. That's it for today. Be sure to subscribe to our channel to be notified when we release new tutorials. Thanks for watching and see you next time.